Hello, Bobby. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Great stuff. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I was looking forward for this conversation for a while, as we always have our introduction call before having the proper recording. So I was waiting, day is coming. There you go. We're here. So, Bobby, before we start then, do you have a favorite quote, something that motivates you, inspires you would like to share with our audience?
I do, and it's kind of not much of a quote, but it's kind of what I live by. It I think it is the answer and the secret to everything, and it is one word, two letters.
What two letters? Okay.
Yeah, it's D-O,
Do
do.
it.
If you want to be successful, you keep doing stuff. You don't give up. As a founder, you know really quickly, you you, you can pivot all day long, but don't quit.
Don't quit. Yeah. Yeah. Make perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Great stuff.
Yeah.
So, Bobby, let's imagine that we are in a room of full of ambitious founders, new early stage builders, right? They're sitting there, they're waiting for you. They don't know who's going to come up on the stage. And within a moment, you walk in, the whole spotlight is on you. You got the mic and you have few minutes. What would you tell them about you or your story so that they can stick with us for the rest of the hour?
All right, let's see. So I first would preface with I've been around a lot of founders and a lot of startups and a lot of people that are excited about this product or service that they have, and they're so passionate about it, and they come up and they're like, Bobby, everybody needs this. Everybody needs this. This is the coolest thing. Everybody needs this. And my question is always, that's great if they need it, but do they want it?
Mm,
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they need it. I know that sounds crazy. But there's plenty of people that need stuff that don't want it and don't do it and don't take it to the next level. So if you're looking for an MVP and you're trying to figure out how to make it for everybody, that everybody needs this, they need it, you need to go find out if they want it before they do anything. And I tell a story. I had a client that it's a fun. I'm gonna take a minute to tell the story because I find
sure.
it's a good one. It's a fascinating one, and I think it's a great growth and a founder story. So what I would tell, I'd get up and I'd talk about. So here's this kid, and he's a construction worker. He's got a little business. He does concrete work, right? And he lives in Utah in the United
Mm,
States, and it gets cold in Utah, and there's a lot of times in the year that he can't pour concrete, right? Because it won't cure or whatever. And he gets this idea. He's talking to his uncle, who's an engineer,
mm,
and he goes, if there was some way, I know there are people that do something to that they can cure concrete in the winter. And his
mm.
uncle goes, yeah, I bet I could create something. I could figure something out. And it's this, the greatest way to build a company is you find the problem and then you figure out the solution, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the core of business. That's the core of creating companies. So what he did is his uncle helped him, and they created this powered blanket that they could put over the concrete, and it would heat the concrete during whatever weather, and it would cure the concrete. And he's like,
Mm.
he did it in his little construction company, and he's like, wow, this is working great. Um, and he said, I should start a business making these. And doesn't know anything about business. He was not a business tycoon at all. He knew nothing, but he knew that if he could get some people that did, he might could build something. So that's exactly what he did. Long story short, a year into the growth of that company, they're doing around 1 million in revenue. It blew up pretty quick. He
Mm.
ended up selling most of it and eventually sold it all to the original investors. And I came in. They were doing about 1 million in revenue and about 1.5 million in debt.
Mm.
It's not the worst. It's not the best. I went in, and I'm a technology person. I'm the technology guy, and I go in. It was a disaster. It was. I mean, all of the everything they were using was pirated software. It was just a mess. And I went in, there was 2 things that changed the whole world of this company. One was the technology. I came in and rebuilt, from the ground up everything in that and it became a pretty big manufacturing plant. And then leadership, there was
Mm,
none. And we went through, I think, 3 different CEOs. It wasn't until we finally found Brent, who was the leader they needed. Me and him together just built this company into a powerhouse. And just recently, a couple years ago, we went from that 1 million and 1.5 in debt to over 20 million, and ended up selling that company for 18x, which is unheard of.
mm.
18x. And it was all, Brent was like, they offered 12x, and he came back with, you know what, I think we're worth more. And all the investors are like, whoa, dude, 12x is huge. But to Brent's credit, he was like, yeah, no, just wait, just wait. And sure enough, it was amazing to watch and to be a part of that whole thing. But it started with this kid that just had a problem to a solution. And the biggest piece that I can tell any founder, there's a lot of people doing the same stuff. There's a lot of people actually doing that same kind of curing thing. Uh, that company grew to do all kinds of stuff. They started doing it for oil rigs, and we were wrapping stuff on oil components worth thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But we found a real UVP. Yeah,
UBP. Never heard about this.
UVP,
UVP.
which is a unique value proposition.
Proposition. Got it.
Every company, especially when you're in an industry where there's a lot going on, there's a lot of people muddy that water. People are like, well, I don't want to be in an industry where there's a lot of people. Well, if you can figure out the right UVP, you can dominate. You can
Mm,
dominate. If you can be unique in some way in any industry, and that's what this company did. We learned how to be the expert and really take on how to work in cold weather and make stuff work. And anyway, that's one of my big stories that I'm really proud of. I was really proud of being a part of that company. And I would tell the founders, if you don't have a good UVP, you're going to have a hard row to hoe. And if you don't give them what the people want and not what they need, if you're always looking at this is what people need, you're looking at the actual wrong thing. And that's what most people do. They look for what they need when it's not. It's what they want. If you can't
mm.
find what they want, and what they want is solving a certain problem, not the problem that you think they need. I see that in founders so often, and I see failures, and so much money wasted because they didn't do their due diligence to find out what people wanted, because they were
Mm.
smart enough to know what they needed. Not everybody
Indeed.
can be Steve Jobs and just know what people actually want. We don't all have that ability.
Indeed. And I could definitely relate to that because I run a small SaaS platform where we create communities for people, right? Like meetup.com. You might have already heard about them. So we create communities for people. But when we started, there was barely few people creating the community because one of the biggest challenge in a marketplace is it chicken or is it egg? Because if you're creating a community, you need the members. So if you do not have the community, members will not join. But why would somebody create a community if there are no members on the platform, right? It's very, very tricky. Even if you listen to the founders of Reddit or Airbnb, you will find that Airbnb used to scrap data from Craigslist is one of the biggest, I think, listing website in US, and then put it on their website, and that's how they generated the traffic. When it comes to Reddit, they said that they literally created fake users on Reddit initially to basically create that community feeling and everything, and now they become one of the biggest community platform. So we had this huge challenge and we had no idea how we are going to solve it. And then while we are doing these interviews with our potential customers, we got to know, oh, well, why are you creating a platform for community? You should create a platform for people who wants to make money from the community. who already have their following. They already have people
UVP,
looking at you.
baby. I
Yeah,
love it. It's a
you,
UVP.
you already have these people who already have some following, but the challenge for them is to monetize their community in a way. And that's what we did. That's what we converted the whole platform into money generation machine for people who have followers on Instagram, followers on YouTube, followers on LinkedIn. And what they do, they create this little community. They try to bring the members from the social platforms in there, and then they host weekly seminars there. They host events there for local community members, and that's how they're started generating money. So I could not emphasize here more, and I could not agree more with you on this. That if you don't understand what people want, I mean, the need is there, but sometimes you going on a street and you see a homeless guy. He needs a shelter, but does he want a shelter? Right.
100%. So,
So
some of them are they're really happy. They like living where they're living, or the freedom. It's funny you should say that, because there is a homeless person just a little ways away from our home,
mm,
and it's a couple miles. And the reason I bring this up, I think this is important. Um, it's a lady. She's 38 years old. She lives in a camper that's a down, destroyed camper just on alongside of a business highway. It's crazy. She's been there 4 years.
mm,
We've tried to assist her, and we went and given food, and my wife has even tried to get her to there's all these programs my wife knows about. She used to be a social worker, and she can totally get this lady out of the situation. And she says, you know what? I have never been happier. I have never been happier and feel safer than where I'm at right now. And she's living
mm.
in this junked out trailer, and it's like she loves it, and she feels so free, and she loves where she's at, and she doesn't want any of the help. Anyway, that was a great example of need versus want.
Indeed, indeed. So let's move on to so because I want to learn more about you, Bobby. I'm eager to learn about the person behind this entrepreneurial spirit. Can you take us back to your roots and share with our listeners about your upbringing, your childhood? How did your early experiences shaped your journey and eventually led you to become the visionary you are today? And were there any key influences from your family or surroundings? We have all read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Was there a rich dad? Was there a poor dad there? And we would love to hear more about the foundation that set you on this incredible path.
Oh man, that's awesome. I I have quite the interesting past, like so many folks. There's colorful pasts. My father was a hustler at
Mm,
every core of what that means. He was a hustler. He was in the Korean War, and he was a disabled veteran my whole life. But he just hustled. He never had a job. Never had a job the whole time I was a kid, growing up, or nothing. He hustled, and I would. We lived in Texas, and I would go with my dad, and we would go. We'd have a truck, and we'd get a trailer, and we would travel all over the West Texas area, and we go to gas station, and they would throw away inner tubes, the big tractor inner tubes and stuff, these giant inner tubes. Well, that rubber could be recycled, and my dad would go and ask, "Hey, can I go through your old stuff?" And we would. I'm this 8-year-old kid with these giant inner tubes trying to pull them into this truck, and we would put them on this trailer and stuff. And we do that for a whole week during the summer when I was out of school or whatever. And my dad would make like $1,000 doing this, and I would see him interact with people. I mean, he could hustle. He could sell anything to anybody. He'd go to a gas station, and he'd go, "Can I look through your old tires that you changed tires with?" And he'd find some that were pretty good. And then he'd go across the town, and he would go to another gas station, and he would go, "Hey, I have these pretty good tires. Could I fill up my car for these tires? Or will you give me $20 for these batch of tires?" And They would do it. He would go from one gas station to another and selling stuff, and that was my growing up. Then we would do flea markets, and at 8 years old, I was the richest kid in the neighborhood because my dad would give me. He'd say, we're at this flea market, and here's what I need to sell this stuff for. If you sell it for anything more than that, then you can keep whatever you sell it for. And I had this natural ability, I guess. My dad, I remember him coming back because he'd leave and go do his thing. While his 8-year-old is running the flea market there that I was at, and he comes back and he goes, I saw that lawnmower was what you sold that lawnmower, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, you only need, this is a long time ago. I only wanted 15. He said, what did you get for it? I said, I got $35 for it. And he's like, oh, wow, good job. Awesome. I had my tube socks stuffed full of money because I didn't have any pockets. I was wearing shorts or whatever. And so anyway, those are my early years. But then my mom, excuse me, she worked for the government. She was a government girl, and she worked for high up folks. So here's my dad, which is a hustler, that lived with the folks down here, the real people. And then there's my mom that worked in this world of high profile government people. She worked in HUD and some different places. And so she would take me to these parties with these CEOs, these people in hodgepodge. And so I had this weird world, right, where I was with my mom and then I was with my dad learning how to just talk to normal, straightforward people and how to hustle and sell. So I have a really crazy, interesting background. Then of course, the ADHD doesn't hurt with jumping around and trying to find things to do. I've been a part of 30 different startups. I love it. Only 5 of them are worth talking about, right? I've had a lot of failures, and those failures were beautiful learning lessons that took me to the next level. And I used to tell my wife, I've been married 29 years now. It's been a fun road, but she's had to deal with me for that 29 years. Now she runs a whole a group of entrepreneurs because she's like, she knows exactly how to take these entrepreneurs because she's had to live with me forever. But I used to tell her, I said, Monique, as long as I win more than I lose, we're still good. We're still, because she'd freak out because I'm like, oh man, I just lost $20,000 in this blah blah blah. But then I'm like, but I made 50,000 in this thing, so we're still ahead. We're still good. We've
Indeed.
never been destitute. We've never been out on the street. It took her 29 years, but I think she trusts me now that we'll probably not be destitute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a long way around answering that, or giving you some insight to me?
No, definitely. It gave me, and it tells me why you chose to become an entrepreneur, why you have that spirit inside you, right? Because you've been designed yourself by then circumstances, by the people around you, by the universe, to be fair, so become what you are today. Great stuff. So Bobby, tell me more about, are you building something new? Are you creating a new service? What's hidden inside that heart?
I've decided to take on an industry and butt up against what's going on in the world. I'm looking at that UVP. So right now, I've owned a little tech company. It's an IT services company. There's thousands of them throughout the United States. Thousands of them. How and really that industry has been, for so many years, has kind of been wrapped in taking advantage of companies, kind of holding them hostage with technology. We've all probably been a part of that in some form or fashion. Or even IT has been a very weird, funky thing in corporate IT. And I did a stand in corporate IT many, many years ago. It's full of these guys that think they're smarter than everybody else. And it's just I've never been like that. I'm a people person. I love technology. I'm a geek. I'm a nerd. I like that stuff. I really get deep into it. But I also like humans. I like human nature. I love business models and understanding businesses. I created Boteca BOTECA, which stands for Business Operation Technology Advancement. That's what BOTECA. People are like, "Well, how'd you come up with that name?" I wanted something that wasn't just technology, but that was about moving a business forward better than just trying to figure out how to make more money off of the client. That just didn't. It, if you can figure out a way to take care of the client better than anybody else, the money comes. You
Mm,
don't have to figure out how to rip them off or sell them hardware they don't need or things like that. So I've kind of have this passion around everybody thinks you need more technology. And I actually wrote a book called Lean IT. It's on Amazon and stuff about you need less, not more. If
mm,
you want to be more secure, if you want to if you want to make things simpler, if you want to be more reliable, more predictable, keep things more simple, not keep it lean, not do more. And that comes from the whole world of manufacturing because I'd been in that with that company and several others. There's lean manufacturing. I don't know if you've heard of that, Six Sigma and all that. The Toyota way back in the day was a really big deal. And I've kind of owned my space in technology to do less
mm.
and it's flipped everything because that's not what technology support folks do. That's not what these kind of companies do. They figure out how to make more by giving you more technology. So I've kind of flipped it over on its head, and I'm kind of this waving up here, hey, we've done things this way. The world is changing. Technology is changing. People aren't in the dark anymore. You don't need that geek in the corner that doesn't know how to talk to people but understands the technology because we're all in it. And now with AI, it's a different world.
Mm.
It's a different world. And I'm right now on the cusp of doing some things with AI that is going to flip um, this support model on its head for every industry. And it's we're at the cusp. I'm excited to be a part of technology right now because we've got all the doom and gloomers and people that are freaking out and some folks that are talking about AI destroying the world or whatever. Uh, to me, that's all wasted thought, wasted time. I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm moving forward and I'm excited about what technology is doing. I'm excited, dude. I use AI all day, every day to do so many very amazing, interesting things. And it's not going away. If we can figure out, we've got to figure out how to stay human, right? But then use that technology for the future. And so
Which, which,
I'm stoked.
which part of the AI you're trying to turn upside down? Would you be able to share that?
So it's not AI that I'm turning upside down. It's the industry of supporting companies.
Mm-hmm.
A- And a lot of stuff right now is we have NDAs for a lot of people that we're working with, and some of the investors and stuff. So there's a lot. I just can say that it's going to be exciting, and
Got it.
AI is going to be so much more a part of things. And you're either I tell people the first one there wins.
Mm.
And we see this, now with OpenAI and all the other Mark and all those guys coming out. Uh, they're here to stay, and they're gonna be here for they're gonna be a big part of all of it. But now all of these little pieces and parts that are coming out, first ones to certain industries are gonna win.
Indeed.
And my whole push is the technology industry, supporting technology in companies, in big, small, little, big, giant, enterprise. I don't care what it is. We're building something right now that is going to change the face of how people get supported. That's always been such a big, I have a problem with my computer or the company's something this, we've got to we got to make a ticket or we got to find out, who can we talk to? Hey, go down there and talk to Jerry in IT and see if he can help us with, what if all of that was completely streamlined and it was mostly figured out by AI?
Mm.
Anyway, that's my it's a tease. I apologize, but it's it's a game changer. It's a world changer. It is what it is.
Got it. Got it. So, Bobby, let's do something different then. You shared a really good example at the start of this episode. Our listeners are mostly almost 28% of our listeners are people who are listening and they are into their 9 to 5. They're trying to get into the founder space. Challenge is when you get into the founder space, you cannot stop supporting your life. You have mortgage to pay, you have rent to pay, you have car insurance to pay, blah, a lot of things. Could you tell us a story about one of your clients you have helped who were into their 9 to 5s or stuck somewhere where you helped them out to get out and then they became what they wanted to? They achieved the goal which they wanted to achieve with your help. It would be really, really helpful to understand for our listeners to understand what kind of verticals you are most versed in terms of helping the founders, as well as might help a person who is into the similar situation to get out of the situation.
I've got a lot of opinions about this. Anybody that knows me, I've spoken at many entrepreneur groups and conferences. Uh, I have some very strong opinions, and a lot of people don't like to hear what I have to say about it. um, w- w- the, I have had so many people come up to me and they're now, I read a book, you got to burn the boats. And so I quit my day job because I know this is going to work. And they're so excited. And I'm just like, okay, that's great. I'm excited for you. And inevitably, I don't know if I've never seen that situation where in 6 months, I don't see that person coming back. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to feed my family. I don't know what to do. And I tell everybody, burning the boats is great for a certain thing. I mean, I read the books too. I know the story too. It's great. But you do have to feed your family, and you can't build something, especially bootstrapping something, by just scraping along, just trying to figure it out. Yeah, it's a good motivator when you do that. That's great. And it gets you, and some people, I know folks that do have stories that, man, they did that and it blew them up and they exploded. But you know how rare those are? That's like freaking winning the lottery. It is. It's like winning the lottery. My advice is always listen. You have an idea, business idea. I know you want to create Facebook. I know you want to create Amazon. I get it. We all do. That's exciting. But how about you just create a very simple MVP? Okay. You don't have to quit your day job to create an MVP, because here's the deal. I have spent months and months working on companies that have failed, that I've given my all, that I've spent not millions, but thousands and thousands of dollars on, and they failed. They fall flat on their face. There's a great example in it's not Good to Great, but it's the other one, not built to last. It's the Collins guy. But anyway, he gives an example of, instead of being on a ship and you're fighting another ship, instead of you putting all your bullets into a big cannon and just shoot it all over there at the other cannon, at the other ship. Uh, Instead of doing that, how about you start with a musket and you shoot to kind of see the trajectory and see what it takes to hit that other thing. Then once you figure that out, then you put all of your stuff in there and you aim at how you've learned to aim. And I tell people, dude, if you think you have to quit your day job to build something great, you don't. Build something simple. And the second that what you built can't move forward because of your day job, can't grow, you're in a pattern where you're like, man, if I don't give this more of my world, it's making revenue, it's doing something, that's when you quit your job. Another thing people do is they're like, Bobby, I've got $1 million idea. I've got this $1 million. All I need is money. I just need to get in front of some investors and tell them this $1 million idea. And you know how much that $1 million idea is worth? It's
Zero.
worth $0. It's worth $0, man. It's not worth jack. You know what is worth something? When you put an MVP together and you start getting some movement. I tell people, you want to get money, I'll tell you how you can get tons of money from VCs, angels, build your company where you can't move forward because you've got so much going on that you need more money to push that forward. Every VC, every angel investor will want to be a part of that when they see that. When they see that, man, I've got all of these orders, but I don't have the money to buy the product for these orders, dude, they will give you money all day long.
Exactly.
Anybody
Exactly.
watch Shark Tank? Watch Shark Tank for 2 seconds when they go, well, how many of these have you sold? And it's some stupid, weird A thing. And you're like, how many of these have you sold? And they go, well, we've sold, 4 million of them. And then all of a sudden, the Shark Tank folks are like, oh, okay. You've sold 4 million. Well, yeah, let's talk. Let's talk. This was a really stupid idea until you said that.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And
dude,
I must share that this is so powerful. Let me actually try to explain it with a real world example so that, listeners could actually relate to it and then uh, could actually talk about it. So let me see if I can do that. Okay. A few weeks back, I was in Oxford meeting my peers from, back in the days. We were talking, right? And everybody was talking about note taking. Somebody use notes, some people use voice notes, some people use AI, all these kind of things. And we started talking about, well, on the App Store, at least on the iOS, there's no app which actually does it in real time. There's only one app, which is called Otter, which is a very big company now. When you speak something, it does the transcription in real time. Every single other app, what they do, you record something, and then once the recording is done, they parse the recording and then they transcribe. And this is what done. I said, okay, let's have a look. So after that conversation, I came back home, did discussed it with my friends, at my colleagues at work, and we created a very simple, straightforward app which uses the local local AI on your iPhone. Right? It doesn't even take you outside. So every single piece of the technology is in your phone. And you open it, you click on record, and it records and transcribes in real time while you're speaking. It is magical. Like it shows you something which is not possible at the moment in other apps. And then it just saves it at a notes. And then I shared it with my friends and I said, wow, this is fantastic, we're going to use it. Not a single customer, not a single person bought it. What did I do? I literally put $100 on Reddit for the advertisement. And I said, while you're working as a doctor, while you're working as a nurse, while you're working as a busy professional, you don't have time for typing. So what do? You click a button and record it with your voice. There you go. I've already got 29 customers on the app who is paying me yearly, right? And I'm growing the app every day. So that tells very, very easily to the new founders that if you can build something, put it out there, and then figure out an angle where you can actually sell your product. I mean, this app is not helpful for anyone there who is already using Notes. This is helpful for people who don't have their hands available for themselves while they're working, right? But they have their voice available. So this is the example I wanted to share with you because, as you said, you have to create an MVP. You have to go out there and you have to sell.
That that is so key. I love that. That's
Yeah.
super cool. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's everywhere now. I actually have. I don't know if you've heard of Plod. I use this
Yeah.
little thing to do notes all the time, but it does exactly what you said. It records it and then you upload it and then it does a transcription. So I
Transcription.
love that. That's super cool. But you're right. It, it's not rocket science to just create something and see if it people. And you said something super super important. If you can't get sales, it's not a business. We all know that. If nobody wants to buy it, it doesn't matter how cool you think it is.
Mm.
And the more money you put into it, that I love stories like you said, the $100 putting in for ads. One of my favorite stories is the guys that created Pong. I don't know how old you are. I'm an old guy. Pong was in the 70s, and if you know the story, the guy went to a conference of some kind, and he saw this little one-sided Pongy thing, and he went to his buddy and he goes, "Hey, could you create that with two?" And they they figured it out, and they went to a bar and they said, "Hey, can we put this little box in here?" And they get a call like 2 days after they put it in there, and they're like, "It's broken." And they're like, "It's broken." So they go, and the reason it was broken, there was so many quarters stuffed in it that it couldn't put any more quarters in it in 2 days. And they were
Mm,
like, "Oh crap." And they spent $500 to build that prototype. $500. And it became, Pong was the start of all internet game, or not internet game, gaming in general. And, the rest is history. But I just love it. They didn't spend a ton of money. They didn't do a lot of work. They spent $500, and then the sales just started racking in. If you've got something, you don't have to push it. I love something that Gary Vee. Gary Vee is an interesting character, and something he said once just really took me, because he's a marketing guy, right? That's his whole
mm,
push. And he said, "You know what? I've never tried to convince anybody of anything." He said, "I
mm.
tell them what I have, and they either want it or they don't." Eh,
Yeah.
We try so hard to convince people. If you have to convince people, you need a different product.
Mm,
Period.
yeah. Yeah.
I get pretty
Your
passionate
product.
about this stuff, man. I'm sorry.
No, no, you're absolutely right. Product-led growth is the new growth in new world, right? Everything is product, and everything is need, everything is want, everything is that viral moment. Yes, you can achieve growth with money, with advertisement. Yes, you can 10x your revenue with all these kind of strategies. But the fundamental business starts with a need, with a want, and a product which satisfies that want, and that's where it thrives. Correct. That is
and you don't
absolutely
need
gem.
and you don't need a lot to figure that out. You don't need to spend a lot of money. When you have a true idea, I know sometimes MVPs are more expensive to create than others. Some of them are, but still, the MVP concept is so important. Quit trying to build Facebook on your first shot. Even they didn't. Zuckerberg didn't do that. He was doing a dating thing, and in fact, he wanted to focus on a peer-to-peer thing he was doing, like Napster. And
Yeah,
they told him, maybe this Facebook thing is a good idea, right? So you just create something and then see if people are interested.
indeed,
And then
indeed.
quit your day job. This is a very long way to go around. I am not a proponent of quitting your day job and going all in. I think that's, for the most part, stupid shit.
Mm,
Don't do it. Because you're gonna, especially if you're older. When you're young, you're young. You don't have a family. You're living in a little apartment. Crap, yeah. Go for it, dude.
mhm.
Blow yourself out. But you're 30 and you got 3 kids. Dude, you got to think smarter than, "Oh, I read this book and it says, I got to go all in." Sometimes all in looks different for different people.
Indeed, indeed. And this conversation is going so good. I could just keep going on, but I'm gonna stop it here and say we have one more last section left in on our show, which is the 6 quick fire round questions. At any point, if you think you don't want to answer one of them, just give me a skip, and then I'll move on to the next one. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm
Great
ready.
stuff. What are the top 3 strategies to generate or come up with more viable business ideas in 2026?
2026. The Come up with more.
Viable in
I'm
business
going to say the
ideas.
big thing is using AI. Um,
Mm,
Dude, it's crazy now. I got a stupid idea. My ADHD brain freaking goes through so many iterations of business models all the time, so much. I love just going in there, popping in, "Hey, dude, I'm thinking about this crazy thing here." And AI, it's always very nice to give me its opinion, and it's always some positive spin on anything. You got to be careful with AI, because it's going to tell you, "Oh man, that's a great idea. You should totally do that. Here's how you should do it." But I do think there in 2026, if you're not using AI in some way to kind of blossom and form and look at your iterations, you're behind the times, and you're behind everybody else. Period.
indeed, indeed. What book would you recommend to our audience and why?
I'm a big reader, and there are so many amazing books out there, especially business and founders. Built to Sell is a good one, I think, for folks that really want to understand how to build something they can sell. Because some people think I build this thing and I'm kind of the cog in that wheel. A business, I don't care if it's making $20 million. If you're the cog in the wheel, it's not worth anything to anybody.
Yeah.
So you have to learn. So Built to Sell, I think, is a great one that way. But and this is an interesting one. It's called uh, 10x is easier than 2x. I don't know if you've
Mm.
ever heard of that book. It's a
Is it from
Hardy
Alex
and
Hermosi?
no,
No.
it's not. It's not. And I've read all of the $1 Million Lead books.
Mm.
He is great. But the 10x is easier than 2x. The philosophy in it just changed my paradigm because I've been in, let's 2x let's go, let's 2x this next year. We're going to 2x. But in the book, the philosophy is, if you think bigger, if you think 10x, it's actually easier to do 10x than 2x, and that's kind of the model of the book. I can't tell the whole framework of the book in 2 seconds, but if the concept is growing really big is easier than growing in simple small iterations, and it's a pretty powerful book. So I would say for anybody looking to scale their business or even start, it's a great book to start with.
Great stuff. What's an one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
This might be cliche, but it's being a visionary.
Mm.
You've got to be a creative. The true founders aren't the doers. They just aren't. I find the doers because they're
Yeah.
much better than I am. I'm a visionary. I get excited about stuff, and then I'm off to the next thing. I really think if you're not a visionary, if you don't sit around and I mean, anytime I'm in a restaurant or I'm driving down the road and I start thinking about that business model and what it took to grow that, or why I'm in this restaurant and there's only two people in here. What have they done to screw this thing up? Or man, this place
Mm.
is packed. I mean, I go to an event and I'm like, what did the event people, that's just that kind of visionary mindset of always wanting to understand you're more of a creative.
Curious mindset. Yeah.
I'm an artist. I play music. I even build acoustic guitars as a hobby. You've got to have that curiosity and that excitement about business. I know I get jazzed if I just had my way, I'd just sit around and listen to pitches all day long and give my 2 cents to folks because I, I love that, and I think that's very important as a founder. You've got to be a visionary. You've got to be a creative. Anyway, that's my two
Indeed.
cents.
Indeed. What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit in 2026?
Oh man, there is so many, and as a person that jumps around so much. Here is a very simple one. I love technology, but I also think there's a place for things. So I have cue cards that in the morning I write, okay, what are the three things that I'm doing today? Or a lot of times I'll do it at night before I go to bed. I'm going, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna make sure I do these three things. Whatever that is, tomorrow this has got to get done. And it every day I pick up that card and I check them off as I do it. It's super low tech, but it keeps me on track. And for me, that low tech is I I get drowned in the. I have an assistant because I she keeps me on track for all of my calendaring and stuff, and podcasts and things like this. I would lose complete control if I said anything, dude. Get an assistant. that will that will that will help you a lot if you have a mindset like mine anyway. But anyway, those cards. That's my big. It's super low tech, but it keeps you focused on tasks and doing things. And it doesn't have to be giant. It's every day. I do it every single day.
Mm. What's a new or a crazy business idea you would love to pursue if you had time?
I thought about this during COVID. We always have to preface that with something like that. When everybody started using Zoom and it got all crazy, and then we started having conferences. I did keynote speaking at a bunch of different online, Zoom conferences and stuff, and I hated it, dude. I hated every minute of it. I like being with people. I like connecting, but I had this crazy idea. What if we created a virtual world for conferences? And it's like the mix of a game, like a first person shooter, but instead of a first person shooter, we all walk around this event center, and they have booths with vendors, just like you do at a real thing, but you're inside this virtual reality space, and you go in an auditorium and you watch the speaker just like you would at any other event, and then you walk around and talk to vendors in this real time thing. It was a crazy thought idea back then, and I had I didn't even talk to some investors and stuff, and they're like, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and we got excited, and then stuff kept going. But I always thought, yeah, it's a crazy idea, but it could do something fun.
Yeah, there was a guy. There was a guy from Shanghai who created this new platform on Google Maps where you can actually, sitting in Shanghai or anywhere in the world, go to London, zoom in to Oxford Street, walk on the Oxford Street with Google Maps, go inside the store, buy whatever you want to buy with shopping online, experience the store, and then come out, and then he delivers it to you in Shanghai.
Oh, see, that's cool. I love that. It makes it just a little more. Back in the day, I was a gamer. I actually owned a whole bunch of gaming shops back in the gaming cafe time. I had a bunch of those, and so I've kind of got that gamer mindset. When World of Warcraft came out, it changed everything. People just sat there as zombies and started wowing out, right? And for hours and hours on end. And back then I even thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could just do that exact same thing? Go walk through a city and go buy stuff and have real shops in these games. But anyway, yeah, I could go down that rabbit hole. That's some fun thought process.
Indeed. Um, what's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
That most people don't know. Interesting or fun fact? I did a stint as a stuntman
What?
in Texas, in my the very early '90s. I got my stuntman's license. I was on a part of the guild or whatever, and all of that, and would do stuntman stuff. Yeah, that's something not very many people know, but yeah, I don't know anything else.
Great. Well, that's a good one. So Bobby, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story, unpacking the last years of building, your multiple businesses, helping other people out. If people want to check out your book or people want to get in touch with you if they have any kind of questions, what's the best way to do it?
You can just look up Bobby Glenn James on the internet. I come up all over. That's easy. I'm of course on LinkedIn and stuff, and the Lean IT and my other book. I also wrote a book called Eight Wisdoms back in 2010, which is about my journey. It's kind of a personal development meets fantasy. It's more like a Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist type of thing. I had my existential, deal. That's on there too. It's all on there on Amazon, of course. You just look up Bobby Glenn James on Amazon, and my books will come up. I'm also working on one. I'm doing a rewrite of some Thomas Troward stuff, and you probably don't know who that is, but he was a writer at the turn of the 20th century. In 1909, he wrote a book called the Eldenberry Documents or whatever. And I'm going down this rabbit hole of these first founders of The Secret. Right, The Secret wasn't
Mm,
really a secret; they were talking about it a long time ago. So anyway, you can find me Bobby Glenn James anywhere. That's Glenn with one N, not two, named after Glenn Campbell.
great stuff. Great stuff. Bobby, thank you
There we
so
go.
much for joining us today and sharing your inspiring journey. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Founders Podcast.
Thank you, Ash. Thank you very much, Ash. This has been amazing.